Well, hello and welcome to the CDAO magazine interview series. My name is Derek Strauss. I'm with Gavroshe, and we are partnering with CDAO magazine, the MIT CDAO IQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews with chief data officers, chief data and analytics officers, in fact. And today I have the pleasure of talking with Tony Cyriac. Tony is from Charles Schwab, and he is their Chief Data and Analytics Officer. So, Tony, welcome.
Thank you, Derek. Excited to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.
Excellent, excellent. So Tony, you are no stranger to the whole role of, leading the charge in data and analytics. You've done it a number of times, a number of organizations. You've had a great deal of experience in companies like Oracle and GE Capital and BMO Financial Group, all of those just before starting up at Charles Schwab. And of course, you've been at Charles Schwab in that role for just over 2 years now. So, you come to us with a lot of varied experiences. And I know that some of the questions we'll be talking through today, you're going to be drawing on your experiences across all of those organizations. So it's not just focused on the last 2 years at Charles Schwab. It'll be your broader experience that we'll be learning from, and we look forward to hearing that. It's not often that we get an opportunity to hear from folks that have got varied experience, and of course a lot of yours is being in the financial industry, but of course prior to that in Oracle you could also reach other sectors. So we look forward to hearing some of your insights from diverse sectors as well. So in keeping with the sort of the broad theme that we typically try to focus on, we're looking at the success, the secret of success. What do successful leaders in data and analytics focus on in order to be able to achieve not just kind of a flash in the pan success, but something that's lasting, that lasts well beyond an initial implementation of something. And, Tony, we're going to be focusing on a number of key aspects that you guys in your team at Schwab have also lifted out and raised up as key things that you want to focus on. So I know that one of the things that we spoke about in preparation for this as well is how important it is to line up with the business's mission. Rather than just come in and say, okay, we're going to do data and analytics and we've got our own agenda, is, okay, what does the business want to do? And how do we have to ensure that our everything that we do in our team is hooked into that? So, with that as a bit of a preamble to where we're going with this, I'd love to just ask you to kick us off a little bit in terms of the CDAO driving the mission of the organization. Can you share with us some of your insights along that line, please?
Absolutely, Derek. I'm speaking certainly from my broader experiences, having done now this at various large firms. The key, it's important to have a key mission defined and your team excited about it. It is very connected to the outcomes for our clients and to our business. That's very important. So I mean, it could vary from company to company, but I simply state it as, why do we exist as a team and what are we trying to push forward with? To me, it's as simple as we are here to harness the power of data, analytics, and AI to accelerate client and business value. So to me, client and business value keeps happening at the company, but there is something with data that we can do that will accelerate it. And to me, that's where we come in. And all my team's focus in every place I've been at is, how do we do that? How do we provide that acceleration? And that is not a thing that data team does on its own on the side. It is something you do in alignment to the business strategy of the firm. So it is very key to understand what are we trying to achieve as a firm, what's the purpose of the firm, and then how can data accelerate, achieve those outcomes that the firm is trying to achieve. That's the key. That's the mission we're working towards. And there are, it's easier said than done, but there are many pillars to then how you do it. But that's the mission. That's a simple mission that we're all aligned with.
Very good, very good. Yeah, accelerating business and bringing the value out of data and using analytics to peer into all that data and make use of it, in decision making is absolutely where it's got to be. Now, what's really interesting about Charles Schwab is, within your company culture, people have realized that digital and data are so important to have those two things tightly in step with each other. And, what do you feel is the power of that approach in your view?
Yeah, as I said, I've done this similar roles in other firms too. I've worked for various different groups in those large firms, including the innovation group, including the technology group. I've reported into several such organizations. At Schwab, we're part of the digital services organization. The entire data analytics insight team is part of our digital services organization. I think there are three, in my 2 years here now, I see three big advantages to that is happening. Number one, I think in most firms, just like Schwab, I think I would imagine digital transformation is one of the largest agenda on the table in terms of driving change in the company. And that's an exciting time. I think coming out of the pandemic and beyond, I think this is hugely the big transformation companies are going through. I think recognizing that data is core to that digital transformation is important. And I think that's what we've done. Having that type of recognition now puts us at the center of the most important change initiative in the company. And that's a journey we are on. The second point I would call out is that I think we've all had, as data professionals, our experience on, massaging the data, looking at insights from it, eventually helping inform management decisions and other things in the company. But the most exciting part is when the value from that data or the insight from that data is used to drive client insights directly. So data-driven client experiences are really important, and it's very exciting to do. So to me, in the digital services organization, part of all of my peers are focused on client experience and the journeys that the clients are going through, how to make it frictionless, how to bring delight to clients in the experiences they have with our firm. And we are such an important part of providing the insights right into the front end. So it's no longer a back-end data analytics idea. It is embedding into the front end, influencing client experience idea. So that's kind of the second point of value I see. And it is so much easier now to do that, part of the digital and data agenda together. The third one I would call out is that we have, lots of data consumers in the company. We've treated them well. There's a lot of focus on giving them tools, self-serve, getting them to use the data for making decisions more and more. But there's a forgotten aspect to it that their own digital experience is very backward, if you may. It's hard for data professionals to do their job. I think I'm learning this, that the focus on digital can be also applied to data professionals, which to make their life simpler, because if you make it simpler, frictionless, they'll do more adoption of data, they'll do more driving decisions with data. So to me, that's another lens I want to bring, which is almost applying digital to data the other way around, if you may, right? So those are the three things I'll call out that stood out for me in the 2 years where digital and data has been together.
Very interesting. I love that last point, especially, because it's like the proverbial cobbler's children that don't have any shoes. He's making shoes for everyone else in the village, but his kids are walking around bare feet or with holes in their in their shoes, and applying it specifically to your own team and to making it possible for yourselves to work smarter, in the environment, is a great perspective to take. So yeah, thanks for those. If you kind of step back and just think in terms of the key pillars that you are using to get your team focused, how would you characterize those key pillars?
Absolutely. I think going back to the mission of how do we accelerate client and business value with data, we've thought about how do we organize around it and execute here. So we've defined three pillars. I think I'm speaking from broader experience too. How what are the kind of three pillars, if you may, you can organize around to kind of execute that mission. The first one is maturing and scaling. There is so much of foundational basics to tackle to be able to do what we already do at scale, and have a maturity progression plan around that, right? And this is all about the core capabilities. And if you think about a data team, how do we bring data together, organize it? How do we govern it? How do we make it easy for others to consume the data? There's a lot in that spectrum that we need to work on. And the focus varies by company. Sometimes it's very regulatory and governance focused. And many times it is about, how do we make it easy for people to make decisions using data? So in that entire spectrum, we have looked at all the capabilities and tried to put a progression plan to mature and scale. How do we do more? The data resources are only so many and the demand exceeds capacity. So how do we scale better as well, right? So all of that is the first pillar. The second pillar is, driving value for our clients and our businesses with data. So while we are on this maturing and scaling journey, we can't wait for the end of it to drive value. We have to be driving value all along the way. And to your point, it's also putting the hat on for the sustained business value point as well. It's not just today do one use case and you're done and happy. You got to hit both spectrums here, right? So that's a second pillar, which is how do we drive value for our clients, for our businesses with data. And then the third pillar we organize around is enabling talent and a data-driven culture. It's equally important that we got to enable our talent to grow in using the data, in organizing data, in making it easy for other people to use it, give them the tools, methods by which they can professionally grow and feel excited about doing this every day. Also, it's about the larger data culture in the company. We often use the word data curiosity, which is how do we get our leaders around the company to be data curious in every decision that they make. They have great intuition. They use a lot of data in making the decisions, but we want to do more of it. And I think we have a role as the team to drive that data curiosity. And there are many ways to achieve it. I can speak to that later, but those are the three pillars: maturing and scaling, driving value, and enabling talent, and a data-driven culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Those are good ones. And just a note to our viewers here on these interviews, we're going to be breaking this interview with Tony up into 3 segments, because there's a lot in those 3 pillars that Tony has just talked about. So we're going to spend the rest of this first segment just diving into the maturing and scaling aspect that Tony has introduced to us now. And just want to encourage you as the audience, please watch out for the second 2 segments. They're going to be coming up in short order, and you'll be able to pick up a full picture of what Tony has just introduced to us. So So without further ado, let's jump in a little bit more and just do a bit more deeper dive into the aspect of maturing and scaling. I love what you said there, Tony, about the fact that, you know, when you come into a new environment, you very often don't have to start from scratch. Someone is doing something really well somewhere, and it's a question of, it's just in a little pocket, and you've got to be asking the question, how do I take that goodness that we're already doing and expand it and get it used all over the enterprise? So give us some of your thoughts around, you know, the whole aspect of maturing and scaling, and how to do that, and how you've seen it done as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a great point. I mean, we often don't encounter greenfield scenarios. It's always things exist, things keep running, and pretty good things too. And so we just need to take it and apply it broadly. And I think that's the job at hand. So I would start from my experience here saying, you know, take the time to listen and learn what is happening, and have a perspective on what is working, and get a sense from various stakeholders on that topic, right? On what is working, what is not working, and what are some of the pain points your own team is facing, what are your stakeholders facing, and start thinking also the bigger agenda in the company in terms of driving client value and growth, and how do you link what's happening to that? You know, all of this has to be done to form a perspective as a new leader, to then put a roadmap to maturing and scaling, right? So there's a lot of listen, learn, study, form a view that I had to do. And I think that has yielded significant results, honestly, in my first several months in the new role, whether it's here at Schwab or even at my prior firms. Then the point is to categorize them, right? Which is, you know, what are those buckets? And, you know, there is things that most CDAOs or CDOs intuitively understand. There is the horizontal aspects of data that you need to do for the firm. There is the aspects of analytics and data science that you do for the firm, which has various flavors depending on the company. Like here, we do all of the business analytics for most of the business and functions centrally. We have a large data science group. So that's a big mandate aspect. Then there's a third bucket, which is about client experience and research and all of those topics as well. So we do that too. So all three buckets go deeper and try to categorize them, and try to organize the work against those frameworks, and set a view of where we are and where we need to be, and put a progression path on those. Things that you will find along the way include, you know, what I call pockets of brilliance. Real pockets of brilliance sit here. And my job is to literally, to your point, which is take those pockets of brilliance and how do we apply scale? Because one thing you will often find, and I think it's true with most organizations, is demand exceeds capacity on the data science team or the data team. The question is then, the magic is in then something must change in how we do things so we can organize. And that's where I link it to the second pillar, which is we have to orient to a value-driven approach for us to then organize and say what's important, and then back into how do we do this at scale, right? So that's the linkage to the second pillar we had to make to do that. I'll speak a little bit more in that second segment on how we do that. But the first one is listen, learn, study, and then there is categorize them into various buckets, and then find a way to say, you know, how do we overcome the demand exceeds capacity problem in better ways? And then there is, don't get me wrong, there's a whole bunch of tooling and other aspects too of platforms, etc., which also needs its own journey. But I often find people jump into that as a first answer. I think you have to do all of these steps before we get to that. There are things on the platform that we are doing just like most companies, you know, getting into the cloud and all of those, that's happening, better tooling, all of that is also happening. All of that is part of the roadmap of this maturing and scaling, if you will.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point that you just made there about the fact that, you know, a lot of organizations make the mistake of jumping into the technology, the tooling, the platforms before they've actually figured out, well, what do we actually want to do here, and what's going to really support the business best, and getting the business understanding and priorities right first. So, yeah, I can see how that approach has really served you well in all of your previous experience as well. So thanks for that. Thanks for making that point. I think that about does it for this first segment, because we want to make sure that we leave enough time in the other segments to unpack the other two aspects that you mentioned, the aspect of driving value and enabling talent and data culture, because those are two big topics as well. So let's save them off for the next two segments. So Tony, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and do those. To the audience, keep a watch out for segment 2 and segment 3 with Tony Cyriac from Charles Schwab.
Thank you, Derek.